Yo, welcome back everybody to a brand new video here on the second channel, and today I'm going to be going over all the decks that got day 2 at the Milwaukee Regionals. Now, Milwaukee was a tournament that I did not do too well at. That's why I never posted my recap video. I ended up dropping after round 8. Unfortunately, did not do too well in Milwaukee. I played Arceus Giratina with an Aerodactyl. Fortunately, my run just wasn't very good, and I didn't think it was worth documenting the run just because I didn't do that good. I mean, maybe I could have, but overall, my run wasn't anything special. I had a decent start in day 1, going 3-0-1 into the lunch break, and then after the lunch break, I just continued to lose 4 games in a row. So I didn't think it was worth documenting, but Arctina was a fine deck. I wish I just played Arctura again, to be honest. I think I should have just played Arctura again. The idea behind the Aerodactyl was that the Aerodactyl was supposed to help your Lugia matchup, because Arctina has a rough Lugia matchup if they set up. Like, if they just set up, you basically can't beat that. So I thought about the Aerodactyl, and it's also good for the Arceus Mirror match. It's also good against Arcdura, but unfortunately I didn't play against Arcdura, and I played against one Arc Mirror, and the one Arc Mirror I played against, my opponent played a Dunsparce, so the Aerodactyl was useless. So just wasn't my weekend, unfortunately. Really sucks that it ends my streak of getting points at our regionals. So it is what it is. I didn't think it was worth documenting my run with the deck or anything. It wasn't anything too crazy. It was similar to Deluxe list, which we will take a look at eventually. But here are all the day 2 decks from the Milwaukee Regionals. There are some really interesting surprises. Of course, the big one here, there was a couple Darkrai decks, looks like, that made day 2. So let's take a look here at the top 8. So the winner of the tournament was Henry Brand, all the way from Australia, taking down the tourney. I actually played against Henry in round... was it round 6? I played against Henry round 6. He literally just bodied me. Every game just, like, perfectly set up, got, like, turn 2 Gardevoir EX. I think both games I managed to whiff a turn 2 Arceus V-Star attack, which is what basically lost me the game. If you just fall too far behind with Arceus, especially against Gardevoir, where if they just set up, like, a Zacian kind of loop, you just lose. So, wasn't able to take Henry down. Unfortunately, 2-0'd me really easily. Again, he drew the nuts, but he did win with Guardy, which is surprising. A lot of people wrote Guardy off, including me, saying that Guardy was not that, wasn't as good. I mean, it was still like a top 5 deck, but it wasn't like the best deck anymore because Lost Box kind of farms it. But Henry actually won the tourney and took down a Lost Box deck in finals, which is crazy. He beat Caleb Gedimer's Lost Box deck here. Let me see if I can move this over. He beat Caleb Gedimer's Lost Box deck, the Kyogre build. And the Kyogre build is still, like, the best way to play Lost Box. And even going forward with Paldea Evolved will probably still be the way. I'm pretty sure this list is very similar to the list they all played. The interesting was an Arctina deck got 3rd place. Now, Arctina genuinely is a pretty good deck. I don't know if I maybe should have just refined my list a little bit. I do like this list. 4 Research, 4 Boss, 4 Judge. Super straightforward. Not playing any Charon's Care, though, is bizarre. But what the deck does play is Manaphy and Dunsparce to try to fix the Lost Zone matchup. So the Dunsparce is pretty good against fighting Pokemon, and then the Manaphy is really good against Kyogre. If you time the Manaphy before your opponent goes for the Kyogre, you can probably, like, win the game because of it. So I think Manaphy was actually a really smart call in Arctina. I think Arctina should still maybe be playing, like, a Lost City, but I do like the ability to play Manaphy. And something I actually did consider putting in the list, too, going into Milwaukee, but I decided to not play Manaphy. But I think Manaphy was a pretty good call for the tournament. And, I mean, the deck did get 3rd place, so. And then we got Azul getting top 4 with the same list Caleb had. Again, Kyogre just being super good. We got a Mew deck here. Not the Fusion Mew. We got the Double Turbo Mew with, again, the Manaphies. The Manaphy, 2 Manaphys in top 4. Manaphy seemed to be the broken tech card to play for Milwaukee because it's really good against Kyogre, which obviously saw a ton of play. And then, of course, we got Grant also getting top 8 with the Kyogre deck. Once again, just Kyogre, just BDIF, just a ridiculous, ridiculous deck. We got another Guardian top 8. 2 Guardian top 8 is honestly kind of surprising. Very similar to Henry's build. Henry's build did play a Choice Belt. This build does not play Choice Belt, but again, just it's Guardy doing Guardy things, right? Gardevoir was just fine. And I'm not saying that it can't not beat Lost Box, but we do see 2 in top 8, which is kind of insane, to be honest. And then we got Michael Long here with the Mew deck, the Double Turbo Mew without the Manaphy. So that's very interesting. I'm curious to see how Michael was able to take down so much Lost Box without the Manaphy, because we did see the other Mew deck play the Manaphy, which could just be the technology. And then we got Andrew at 9th place with Mew again. Mew is just good. I figured Double Turbo Mew is just the better way to play it, even after Fusion Mew won regionals. We got Muhammad here with the Lugia. This is the highest place in Lugia deck. Interesting that Lugia did not get top 8. It's honestly a deck that I thought would have got top 8, because Lugia was actually a pretty good call for this tournament, in my opinion. But we do see the highest place in Lugia deck. Yeah, it's just another Lugia list. Nothing too crazy going on with the Urshis and the Tyranitar. We'll see how Lugia adapts going into Paldea Evolved. And we got Neil, who is one of my good friends, who I actually went to Milwaukee with. And our group was hoping he wasn't going to make top 8, because we were like, bro, we got a 10-hour drive home. But he also played Double Turbo Mew. A few of the people in my friend group were on Double Turbo Mew for this tourney, and Neil was the highest placing out of our group. Another person in our group got top 16, though. Then we got Deloc. So Deloc was actually the one who kind of inspired me to try the Aerodactyl Arceus deck out. Deloc's list is a lot more different, though. He plays Flannery. Originally, he played Sydney. But my list is fairly similar to his list. Instead of playing Collapse, I played a Lost City. Didn't play Flannery. My list was a lot different, but Deloc did get top 16 with this deck, which is awesome to see. I think the Aerodactyl was still a good call for the tourney. I think my list might have just not been as good as Deloc's or whatever, or I just had bad luck, because I did have a few rough games and some rough matchups throughout the tournament. Like, the one game I got Aerodactyl up was against Nicholas Moffat, and the Aerodactyl did win me a game, and then in the third game when I got it up, even with a DPL, I couldn't beat Moffat because I just bricked, right? So that was one of the problems with Aerodactyl. It was kind of just more of a brickier card. Like, if I had to put like a Psychic or a Grass Energy onto my Aerodactyl instead of a Double Turbo or Fighting, it just felt really, really bad. We got Isaac here with another Lugia deck. Again, Lugia just being a really good call for this tournament, which, yeah, it was a good call. There's really no, like, I'm surprised we didn't see any Lugia in top 8. That's how good of a call it was. We got a Miraidon deck getting top 14, or top 16, I guess, but whatever. Miraidon's interesting. Obviously, still like an okay deck. Not a bad call. It does beat Arceus variants fairly easily if you can get a turn 1 donk on them. My Regidrago just fell off my ETB stack. But overall, the deck's like pretty fine, I guess. It is one of those like decks that a lot of people clown upon, but it is a deck that genuinely could be like a deck that people really underestimate, right? Even though it does kind of get memed upon that it's a bad deck. But we'll see where Miraidon goes with Paldea Evolved. I think Miraidon might stay the same with Paldea Evolved. It gets a little bit better with the Cape of Toughness reprint, so we'll have to see. I think Miraidon's fine in the new format. We got Connor Fenton getting the top 16 with Lugia once again. Then we got my friend Daniel, who once again I came with. He played the Kyogre Lost Box deck, which was interesting. Yeah, I mean, just another Kyogre Lost Box deck. Different than the Grant build, because he's got the Beach Court split instead of the straightforward build. We got Christian here. Christian, actually, the kitchen, bro. They were all on the spice. That was the Aerodactyl Arceus Klefki deck. Now, this was probably the biggest rogue deck to come out of Milwaukee. Honestly, one of the biggest rogue decks to come out of, like, the past, like, in the format itself. Really interesting deck. So, basically, the idea of the deck is you're not trying to, like, beat the meta. You're just trying to beat the top deck. So the point of this deck is it beats Lost Box, it beats Lugia, and it can also beat decks like Guardy. So the idea behind the deck is use Klefki. Klefki's ability, when it's in the active, basics have no abilities. So Klefki shuts off Comfey and Radiant Greninja, and Lumineon V, which are very relevant to shut off. So you're trying to shut off Comfey so they can't do Flower Select. You try to shut off Lumineon so they can't go Archeops as easily. So basically what you do against Lost Box is you just go Klefki, they make it so they can't set up, then you just go like Arceus V-Star, Judge Path, and just run them over. That's basically the concept. And when you have a Klefki on your bench, if your opponent were to play an Escape Rope, the Escape Rope would basically be non-existent because you would just promote Klefki and it would shut off Comfey or it would shut off Cramorant. So it turns Escape Rope into a dead card in their list, which is one of the things that makes Klefki so strong. And then the Aerodactyl gives you a strong fighting attacker for Arceus, but also helps against Lugia, where if you start Klefki against Lugia, as long as they can't do Lumineon, because you can go Judge Path, right, against Lugia, as long as they can't do Lumineon in that matchup, they're basically unable to set up, right? They can't, Klefki shuts off Lumineon, and they can't do Research or Burnett, and then you go Ancient Star and make it so they can't do Summoning Star, and then you just proceed to run them over with Arceus or Aerodactyl. Though Yveltal would definitely be an inclusion you could add to this deck, but They didn't play Evil Tall. Basically, I did speak to the people who invented the deck. Shout out to Joe, and he said that the deck itself needs to play as less basics as possible because, as you can see, it's a 3/3 RC. It's not a 4/3 like most lists play because you're trying to start with Klefki as much as possible. Your chances decrease for each basic you add into the deck. So we're just trying to just maximize the Klefki starts, and you're just trying to start with Klefki the whole time. It is a pretty big pile, but it is a very hilarious deck that I think actually was a pretty good call for the tourney, and we'll see how it evolves and how they evolved, but I think this deck is actually pretty sick, and it is definitely arguably the biggest rogue deck to come out of the new format, in my opinion. It might be the biggest rogue deck to come out of the new format, because it is just a very straightforward anti-meta deck at its core, and Judge Path kind of carries you in a lot of matches where, like, you might struggle against something like, say, Gudra or Gardevoir, which are a little bit more shakier for a deck like this to take down, because of the power of Judge and Path. You might just be chilling. So, very cool deck. Very happy to see this deck do well, because it's a really cool deck. And it seems like Aerodactyl was a good call for the tourney. We got another Guardy deck here. Nothing crazy in this list. We see 2 Temple of Sinnoh, though, which, try to capitalize on Lugia. And then we finally got Daniel Tavila here, once again with the Turbo Lost Zone deck. And then we got another Lugia deck here with the Radiant Serena. Pretty box standard Lugia deck. And then we finally got our highest placing Arcdura deck. So surprisingly, Arcdura didn't have as good as a showing this time around, where it wasn't like as, it didn't do as well, I would say. It still did pretty good, but it didn't do as well as Hartford, which is surprising. I think the deck is still really strong regardless. It's still just a very powerful deck that I still think is worth playing in this format, because it just beats, it can beat Lugia, it can beat Lost Box, it beats like everything essentially. It doesn't really have like, I don't know if this deck has a bad matchup. That's how good it is. And then we got another Arcdura list here. Both bills look identical. We see the one we just looked at did play the research. This one does play Drapion, so I do like that. If I would have played Arcdura again, which I should have played, I probably would have played at least one Drapion just to make the Mew matchup a bit more tolerable. Because, yeah, you do have Umbreon, but the problem with Mew is Umbreon does not get the job done. It's actually really easy for Mew to one-shot an Umbreon. And also, they just kind of like knock you out if you try to set up. And also, Umbreon sometimes doesn't one-shot Mew, which can be a problem. So if you're not able to find Belt or Single Strike Energy, you're not one-shotting the Mew. I don't know. I still think this deck is really strong. I'm honestly surprised I didn't do better in the tournament. We got another Lost Box deck with Jack Moore here playing the Turbo build with Kyogre and a Drapion. So really trying to beat Mew. We got Ben again with Lugia. Just more Lugia shenanigans. We got another Lugia deck. Look at that. More Lugia. More Lugia. We got yet another Lugia deck here. Yeah, just Lugia proving that is a very strong deck. We got more Lost Box with Andrew Hedrick here. I do like this build, actually. The Zamazenta Lost Box deck is honestly a pretty good deck. So the idea behind this deck is you're not using strong V Pokemon. You have access to Zamazenta, which does 220 damage when something gets knocked out. And Zam's a really good attacker, not only in the mirror, but it's also really good against any V deck. It's actually really good against Arceus specifically, because you can two-shot Arceus. Snorlax in the deck, too, does give you another really strong attacker. And then, of course, you have the Kyogre. So this was actually a really good deck. It might actually have been a really good meta call. Andrew's list is interesting. Does play the Penny in the deck. The one Pokestop. But yeah, I do think this deck is actually pretty good. It's one of those more underrated ways to play Lost Box. Because Zam is honestly a pretty strong card. Then we got Yoshi Tate. Really cool deck here playing the Rapid Strike deck with double Empoleon. So really good anti-meta deck, but his list is pretty insane. He's got a lot of supporters like Cheryl, Arvin. He's got Judge, Melanie. He's got a Scroll of the Swirls. Really cool deck. I do like it. This is actually a really strong deck that probably was a good call if you just farm Lost Box. And I think the thing is the one Drapion might be the big grief one. If I were to play this deck, I would have definitely just played 2 Drapion, because 2 Drapion is still just really good against Mew, but, I do like this deck. The double Empoleon might have been a good call, because it just makes the Lost Box matchup even more winnable. We got another Arctina deck here. This one does play Radiant Hawlucha, and that is another card that I did consider playing in my deck, too, because it's actually good against Duraludon, because you can one-shot Dura. It's good against Mew if they play Oricorio. The problem I have with Hawlucha is, one, you want to use Path. But I feel like Arctina just beats Duraludon without needing the Hawlucha, because while you're not one-hit KOing Duraludon, you don't have to, because you're already going Judge Path against him, and Duraludon doesn't have a draw engine, so a Judge Path sticking for like one turn against Dura can win you the game. So I feel like you don't need the Hawlucha in that matchup. It is nice against Mew, though, because they play Oricorio, right? You can't one-shot Mew with Giratina Belt. More Lugia action. More Guardy, obviously. This one does play Drapion, which I honestly don't even hate, to be honest. As weird as that might sound, I don't even hate that. We got more Lugia. Yeah, it looks like Lugia Dura's obviously died off. And then we got another streak of Arcadura Umbreon. Yeah, pretty much just like a good deck, right? Again, I wish I had played Arcadura Umbreon. I really wish I did, because I think the deck actually would have been a good call for this tournament still. Seems like it's still just a really strong deck. Just got three in a row doing well. Actually, how many supports does that middle one play? Okay, I was going to say, I think they might have been like all the same list. And then, of course, we got another Miraidon deck here. Flaffy Miraidon with the Magnezone again. Just, yeah, it's cool to see. This one does play a Zinnia's Resolve and a Miriam, though. Really interesting supporters to play in Flaffy. And we got Fusion Mew here, which this is the highest place Fusion Mew using a Manaphy and a Deoxys. So that's kind of nice. So, yeah, Fusion Mew, kind of cool deck. The one path without the Judge, though, is odd. Because, again, I don't know if it beats Lost Box. We got Jose Marzan with a really sick deck, actually playing Miraidon. This is actually, I guess this is Turbo Miraidon. So this is a really cool idea. So Turbo Miraidon, basically using Mew and not playing Regieleki or Flaffy, just playing Mew as your kind of engine in the deck. This is a really sick deck, playing Cross Switcher, which is a good card with Miraidon, and Echoing Horn, trying to capitalize on knocking out V Pokemon, basically. This is a really cool deck. It's actually really cool that this did so well. This is a really cool take on Miraidon. So really happy to see this type of Miraidon deck do well. Could it be better with the next set with Poly Evolved? Who knows? Really sick deck. We got Fusion Mew, of course, again, doing well without the Deoxys. And we got more Lost Box here. Billy Chan, again, someone I came with playing the Lost Box deck. Someone in my friend group there. We got Tony with the Arc Pika Arrow deck. So this is an interesting Arc Pile deck. So Pika's really good against Lost Box. You can like Judge Path Lost Box, and sometimes Judge Path Max Balloon is really tough for Lost Box to keep up with. Aerodactyl, again, pretty good against Mir and good against Lugia. It's a really cool deck here to see it do well. I do like it. My issue with this deck, though, is you're going to lose to Arctina, which is one of the things that scared me from playing a deck like this. Is like, I like it, but I don't know if it's beating Arctina. I do like the deck, though. If you're not hitting Arctina, you're beating mostly everything else. So maybe a Gardevoir could be a bit more trickier, but you do have the Drapion, I guess. So maybe it's not as bad. We got another Arctina deck here. With a Drapion and a Radiant Gardevoir and a 2/2 Lost City Path split. More Lugia here. And then we got Mew once again. Raymond Long playing in the Mew deck here with the Lost City. Not playing the Deoxys or anything, or the Fusion Mew. Then we got the highest placing Goodra deck here. Again, Goodra just seems like it's a weird deck. To be fair, I guess with Duraludon maybe not being as popular, it might have been okay. But yeah, Goodra's a pretty decent deck still. It's not the worst deck ever. It's not the best either, though. And it's on the decline, in my opinion. But it is a Goodra deck. And this one, very straightforward. Playing 4 Colress, 4 Gear. Not playing Melanie is kind of interesting. Or Roxanne. So it's a very, very interesting take on Goodra. And then we got another Fusion Mew here. Once again, with 2 Path and a Judge. See, I like that a little bit more. Just a bit more disruption. We got another Rapid Strike deck here. Not like the Empoleon build. This one is just a more straightforward Rapid Strike deck using the Irida, the Gear, or the Irida, the Karinasauri. Just another just straightforward Inteleon deck. Yeah, Rapid Strike's pretty decent. Then we see more Lost Box stuff here. Again, the Kyogre build, Lost Box. 2 Mew in a row. This one does play Squovit. Very funny card. Again, Squovit can let you put a card at the bottom of your deck, and then you can Genesect and draw a bunch of cards with it. So it does decrease your draw cards. You're not having 6 Fusion in play, but you are still able to draw a lot of cards. And we have 4 Lugia decks in a row. Holy moly, bro. This one plays Penny and Thor. Actually, I think I played against, I played against Ruben here, actually. It was a close set. I almost got Aerodactyl off in Game 3. Would have won me the game if I did, I think. But then we got more Lugia. Just again, a ton of Lugia decks here. Again, it's weird that Lugia didn't get top 8, considering there was so much of it, but that's the way it goes sometimes, I guess. You can just skim through these real quick. I don't think there's anything crazy in these lists. Another key deck here. There's Joe with the key deck. Again, really cool archetype. Definitely the biggest anti-meta deck in the tournament. Then we got the Fusion Mew deck. That's the other thing, by the way. I guess, or Double Turbo Mew, I mean. The Aerodactyl Arc deck also beats up on Mew VMAX, too, because Klefki shuts off Genesect. And as long as you're not playing against Fusion Mew, you're just kind of chilling. You got Arctina here. Again, just another straightforward Arctina with the Dunsparce. Like, I don't know if I'm sold on Dunsparce in the deck, but it did come up in one of my matches where it actually won them the game because I wasn't able to use Aerodactyl, which would have been nice to have. We got Rahu ready with the Arcdura deck. Again, I think it's a pretty strong deck. Playing a lot of 2 of supporters. Again, just a really powerful deck that I think was a good call. And we got Jesse Parker with the Lugia deck again. Then we got Miraidon once again. So a couple Miraidon decks already in top. Day 2, I mean, I almost said top 6. Well, actually, this is top 64. But yeah, really cool to see Maridon still do well. Again, it's a deck that gets memed upon, but it's a deck that really can pop off and win games still. Then we got more Guardy, obviously, doing well. We got Lugia. And then let's see here. We got more Lost Box. This one is the Zamazenta build of Lost Box. Again, what Andrew Hedrick played, same list. Again, I like it. I think Zam was a decent call for the tourney. It's pretty good in Mirror and just against Vs in general. We got Braden here with the Arctina deck again. Very straightforward Arctina list. We got more Lost Box shenanigans. Another Arcdura deck. This one plays Manaphy, which I do like. Honestly, had I played this deck again, Manaphy would have been maybe on something in my consideration list. Problem with Manaphy, though, Arcdura doesn't try to, like, I don't know, it doesn't seem like I don't know if you need it, is basically what I'm trying to say. I'm not sure you need it as much as you need the other support Pokemon. But, I don't know, it might help the Lost Box matchup a little bit, but I feel like with Volo, you're probably just winning that anyways, but yeah, I could be wrong. We got the highest placing Sableye Cramzard deck here, which still seems like an okay deck in the meta. I just Lost City is the thing that kind of throws it off. And we got more Arctina with a Drapion and a Zacian V. That's the big caveat, is that Zacian V. So the idea behind Zacian is it lets you get an energy turn 1. So as long as you don't play Path turn 1, which you're never playing Path turn 1 because you want to make sure you can Starbirth first, you can actually turn like a ball card into an energy effectively, turn 1. Problem with Zacian, though, is you don't want to have it in play. That's the thing that kind of hurts with Zacian, is you never really want to have it in play, though I guess you can attack with it. So I don't know. Maybe it's low-key good. Who knows? We got more Guardy here. And we got, it's again, another Lugia deck. And then we got more Fusion Mew here with Deoxys Manaphy. And we got Christian Labella with the Arctina deck. This one playing 4 Chorus, 3 Judge, not playing any research, which I do like, right? I do like not playing the research. It does seem okay to not have the research. And then we got just more Fusion Mew, again, with no Manaphy this time. We got more Lugia, just kind of the Reagan list. We got Mew, once again, the Fusion Mew, or Double Turbo Mew, I mean. I keep getting those mixed up all of a sudden. And then we got more Sableye Cramzard here with the Magma Basin to help increase Charizard's attack options. We got the Moltres build here of Lost Box, which is nice. It's cool this deck is still doing well. Like, is it better in the mirror? Not too sure, but it is nice to see the Lost Box deck still continue to do well in the format. Because I still think the Moltres is pretty sick, and still something worth trying out in this format. Because it's still pretty good. And then we got the Turbo Lost Box deck. We got some Guardy. Yeah, Guardy just with the Gallade. Got the Gallade in there. And we got a really cool Palkia. I actually played against Zach, so it's cool that Zach ended up getting day 2 with the deck. I ended up playing against Zach. I think it was round 3 with Palkia, Gardevoir. Really cool deck. The idea is you set up Gardevoir, you have a draw engine, and you're able to use Shining Arcana to use Kyogre and Articuno. This is actually a really sneaky deck. When playing against it, it was kind of hard to navigate the matchup because I didn't really know what was going on in the list. Like, I didn't know what the deck had to kind of hit me with, but it is cool to see that this deck did do well. And Zach, you know, I did beat Zach, so it is cool that Zach ended up getting day 2 with this really cool Palkia deck, so it's cool to see that. And then we got just more Lost Box doing Lost Box things and just being just a very strong deck. We got Andrew Estrada here with a very cool Lost Box deck. Very tech-heavy Lost Box deck. We see the Snorlax, we see the Stone Split, we see a Tropius. The idea behind Tropius is it has a revenge attack, so you use it against Tyrannitars. Tropius, when it KOs Tyranitar V. That's the point of Tropius. It's actually still a pretty good card to play against Lugia because being able to one-hit KO Tyranitar is actually really good. You can go knock out Lugia with Raikou and then KO T-Tar with Tropius, and then you just kind of easily get 2 prizes from there. You got more Lugia stuff, obviously. We got Gardevoir again, just doing Gardevoir things. More Lugia, beating Lugia. We got an Arcdura. This one does not play Umbreon. It's actually the Alex Shemansky list with some pretty cool improvements. We see 4 Trekking Shoes, 4 Boss, 4 Chorus, a Crystal Cave, a Path, and a Lost City. Very tech-heavy deck. I do like Arcdura Vulpix. Honestly, with Gardevoir being on the rise again, Vulpix could be good again, because Gardevoir doesn't really respect Vulpix. They have Cresselia and Memory Skip Rolls, which you can easily just, you know, Lost City the Rolls, and it's just game over from there. But I do like Arcdura Vulpix. Still think it's an okay deck in the format. You know, Vulpix is a little bit better now. So who knows? Maybe this was a good call for the tourney. And Vulpix could be good in other matchups too. The only thing that I don't like about this list is it doesn't play Drapion. I feel like you want to play Drapion this deck because I don't know how this beats Mew effectively enough without the Drapion. So I feel like if you just play Alex this list, you're probably chilling. I do like the Trekking Shoes edition though. The Trekking Shoes edition was pretty sweet. We got another Miraidon deck here. Sack playing in the Miraidon deck with the Flaffy. Yeah, just Miraidon being a pretty cool deck. A lot of Miraidon in day 2 this time around, which is kind of interesting to see. Another Goodra in day 2 with Articuno. Articuno and Goodra does seem like the way to go. It would help your Duraludon matchup a little bit more. This one does play Thornton, Roxanne, Raihan, Melanie, so a lot of supporters in this list. The big one is we see a Darkrai getting day 2. Hype, 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 hype. I love Darkrai. I'm glad that we see a Darkrai in day 2. The problem with Darkrai, and then that holds it back, because I think this could legit be a deck that could get day 2 more consistently. The problem is this deck has a pretty bad matchup against Lost Box and maybe even Lugia, I think, are your 2 hardest matchups. Now, this build is very straightforward with what it's trying to do. It plays 3 Pokestop, and it has Lumineon. I guess the Manaphy maybe helps Lost Box a little bit more. And maybe when Super Rod comes out, this deck gets a bit better. But I do like it. I like Darkrai. I'm happy to see Darkrai get day 2 because it's not even bad. I think it can beat Arceus consistently because you can one-shot them. I think it obviously just beats Gardevoir pretty effectively too. And I'm glad we see a Darkrai in day 2. I think it's the first time we've seen a Darkrai deck in day 2, right? It might not be, but I like Darkrai getting day 2. I think there's a second one in day 2, right? There is 2 Darkrai in day 2. You'll love to see it. Absolutely love to see it. More Lugia. Now, this is a ballsy Lugia deck. Lugia without Single Strike Urshifu VMAX. Now, Stonedrunner is a decent replacement. The problem is it doesn't... I guess it plays 2 Path, actually. I lied. This deck, actually, I didn't see the Path. It actually plays 5 Stadiums. I guess 2 of them are Path, but... or actually, no, it plays friggin' 6 Stadiums. What am I saying? This is a 6-Stadium Lugia deck. Wow. But yeah, Stonedrunner replacing Urshifu isn't terrible. Stonedrunner is still good against, like, Lost Box. And we got another Palkia deck here. This one is not the Gardevoir build. It's actually Palkia with the Bibarel Squovid engine, playing a bunch of Tech Water Pokemon like Starmie V, Articuno, and Empoleon. Really cool deck. I still think Palkia is, like, a deck that is honestly still, like, decent in the format. And we see 2 in day 2. Another Miraidon deck here. That's an Ampharos EX, right? Yep, 2 Ampharos EX. You'll love to see it. Just hasn't been added Limitless Image Gen. More Arctina shenanigans. We got Lost Box again with Kyogre and Articuno. So very similar to Raymond's list from Hartford. Very, very similar to Raymond's list from Hartford. We got another Arcdura here with the Alakazam, Halucha. Nothing crazy in this list. No secret tech cards or anything. More Mew. And we see the other day 2 Aerodactyl Klefki deck. The keys to the kitchen. Let's go. Sick deck. Again, you love to see it. Love to see it. Pretty sick anti-meta deck. We got Lost Box here with John Ang playing the Kyogre. And has the Snorlax in the deck too. And then we got another Guardy deck here. And we got a very cool deck here. We got Pika Umbreon. Now, this is obviously Arcdura, but with a Pikachu. So the downside of this is the Duraludon is a bit of a stronger attacker in a lot of scenarios. But you do still have the Umbreon. And the Pikachu isn't the worst card you can replace Duraludon with because it does help against Lost Box a bit. And you do have a better time into Lugia. So, cool to see his deck do well. Cool to see it do well. Cool to see it do well. And everything runs on like a double turbo. So, you see the deck here only plays 12 energy. It doesn't need to play like a billion energy because everything can run like a double turbo, you know? We got Giratina. I think the only Tina deck in day 2. I mean, hey, it's Tina, right? It does well in Japan. Doesn't do as well over here. We got more Lost Box stuff with a Galarian Zapdos. Not a bad call, actually, for the Arceus matchup, I guess. We got another Arcdura with a 1-1 Umbreon. I actually don't hate 1-1 Umbreon. Because a lot of the time I'm not using 2 Umbreon. I'm only playing 1. I honestly do not hate a 1-1 Umbreon. That actually might be pretty good. The more I think about it, the more I'm like, is 1-1 Umbreon just the way to go, actually? The more I think about it, the more I like it. We got Lost Box again. We got Lugia. And then we got the other Darkrai that got day 2. It might be the exact same list we just looked at. Actually, no, it's not. This list is a bit more wild. We actually see a Picnic Basket, which heals 30 from every Pokemon. I guess to improve Lost Box a bit more, we see the Temple Sinnoh, which is nice against Lugia, the 2 Pokestop, 2 Judge. Yeah, I like it. I'm happy to see 2 Darkrai make day 2. It's a nice deck to just see do well, because it's one of those decks that we know will never be, like, a deck that will ever, like, win a tourney or anything. Not now, anyways, but I am happy to see it do well nonetheless, because, again, the only thing that really holds it back is it doesn't have the greatest matchup against Lost Box. Then we got more Guardy. Yeah, more Mew. I think we can kind of skim through anything interesting. Just we see the other Keys deck here. The Keys, baby, let's go. And we got another Goodra deck doing well. But there you go. Those are all the decks that got day 2 at Milwaukee Regionals. Again, the big surprise, I think, was just 2 Darkrai decks getting day 2. It is really cool to see 2 Darkrai doing well, because Darkrai is just an awesome deck, and I'm happy to see Darkrai do well. And it is awesome to see. Again, a couple of my friends did get top 16 that I came with, so it was a pretty fun tourney. I didn't do as well. Again, didn't have the greatest run with Arctina Aerodactyl, but I am happy to see some cool results happen. Again, the Klefki and the Darkrai, I think, were the 2 big takeaways from the Milwaukee Regionals. And that'll be it for me. I will probably post another video tomorrow on the top 5 best decks, or the top 5 best cards in Paldea Evolved, and it'll be my next video here on the second channel. So stay tuned tomorrow and get hyped. Paldea Evolved does come out tomorrow on PCG Live on the Thursday. I will be streaming Paldea Evolved, so make sure you check out my Twitch for that and all that good stuff. But yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll catch y'all later. Bye-bye.